Get up and brush off the dew on that turf today. Turf today. Turf today. Cut it and roll that dew on that turf today. Turf today. Turf today. Set up, they about to come through on that turf today. Turf today. Turf today. Get up. Turf today. Get up. Turf today. Let's get out the way. Here comes first play. Let's maintain that turf today.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. When you think about great equipment, it's easy to focus on the machines, the mowers, the irrigation systems, all the technology. But what really makes the difference is the people behind them. That's one of the things we appreciate the most about the Toro Company. The products are incredible, but they're built by people who truly understand this industry. Engineers, agronomists, technicians, and former turf professionals who know exactly what superintendents and crews deal with every single day. They're not just designing equipment in an office somewhere. They're out on course, talking with superintendents, walking fairways, learning what actually makes the job easier. That's why when you use Toro equipment or Toro irrigation, it doesn't just feel well built. It feels like it was designed by somebody who understands your job. So if you're looking for equipment backed by real expertise and real people who care about this industry as much as you do, then check out Toro. Always solving, always evolving. What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Turf Today, presented by Toro and recorded on the Superintendent Network. My name is Adam Kershane, and joined as always by Brian Laurent. And ladies and gentlemen, we got a fantastic one for you. Somebody who's been in the industry over 45 years. Mr. Mark Jordan, the former superintendent of Westfield Country Club and a former president of the GCSAA. We can't wait to get into this one. But before we do, let's check in with Brian first.
How's my volume? Do I need to reduce?
No, you sound good.
Oh.
I would say you sound A-okay. We're in one right now. It's 2-2, 7 minutes left, playing Czechia. Oh boy. Oh my God, they just scored. No way. This is crazy, these guys. Wow.
Canada scored or Czechia?
No, Czechia scored. Not a team we need to be losing to, but it's one game.
Well, it's still round robin play, isn't it?
No, quarterfinals.
Is
Quarters are today.
Oof.
Yeah, the Americans play Sweden right after this.
All right. Well, I know what Camden's going to be doing.
Yeah, you know where to find him.
Yeah, he's going to be parked in front of that TV. So hopefully the game's done before he's got to take his brothers to lacrosse practice.
That's a big one. I know the girls play tomorrow. Canada and U.S. Women's play tomorrow.
That's the gold medal game, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, and that's always the big one for them.
Oof. Yeah, that'll be a battle.
It'll be a good one. We'll have that one on here. I did a little digging for you too. We were talking about the luge last week. So it's actually Lake Placid. They have like an indoor track in Lake Placid. So I guess from the Lake Placid Olympics, the year they hosted it, I guess they've carried it on.
That's like is that like a public luge facility?
From what I read, it was just the indoor training facility. And then there's an outdoor one in Utah, which is close to where they had the Olympics in Salt Lake. And then there's one in Michigan, which is actually real. The other two are like refrigerated, man-made, but there's one in Michigan that's like a real natural one that's kept up by like a luge club. So there's actually a club there. And I guess they have another one in another town in Michigan that's like a learn to try luge sort of thing. So anybody can show up and give it a shot. So like, I guess there are places you can go and do it. Not many, but it's happening. It is happening.
Well,
so what's going on with you?
Not much, man. We've been home for a while. No travel plans in the works for a few weeks. Just a lot of other stuff to catch up on. So, yeah. How about you?
Same old, same old.
Yeah.
We had Family Day here, which is like a provincial holiday. So everything's closed and you're supposed to spend the day with your family. So we went skating, which was a lot of fun.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's just been, like I was saying last pod, my wife's into a whole new routine with her new job. So it's just kind of shaking everything up for us.
Yeah.
But I went back to the golf course today. I was out there on the course first time in about a month, and it was just so nice to be back out there, reconnect with nature, and just I know
Yeah.
it was covered in snow, but on the tractor, had the boots on, just kind of felt like I was right back in it, which is always nice because I'm somebody that needs to be moving.
I was wondering how much cover you guys had. We had a big melt. So the only thing that's still kind of left for us are just where the snowplow pushed it all into piles.
Really,
Yeah.
really warmed up that much for you guys.
Yeah.
It's
We've
nice.
been like 50s the last 2 days. I mean, it's going to go back to freezing here very soon, but we got our first shot of fall spring.
There it is. I
Yeah.
love it. So yeah, everybody's talking about getting the golf clubs out and seeing people walk around in shorts and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. Kids went to school in shorts and t-shirt today. Yeah. Like guys, it's not that warm.
Wow. Yeah. No, I was talking to somebody about it was about different products, and they're like, "Oh, you're not going to need this. You know, the big melt and everything." I'm thinking like, no, a couple feet of snow out on the course right now. But
It's going to take some serious attempts to warm that up.
yeah, yeah. Like I was using the snow plow today still to get around
Yeah.
through cart paths and cut areas and stuff. I'm trying to make some piles. We're gonna have a big burn pile. We're gonna burn some wood on the course. So just trying to get that cleaned up. But the greens, like we're still nowhere near seeing the greens or getting to them yet.
Yeah, it's still February, man. It's still
Yeah.
February. So
Yeah. And
we
like
got some time.
we're always talking about too, everybody's different parts of the nation or the city or the world. Like everybody's different. So there's courses that are a couple hours from us, even an hour down the road closer to the water, which they don't have much snow and they're getting ready to start doing things, you know? So it's really about where you are, and we're in a spot where we get a lot of snow.
Yeah, you definitely do. You're used to it though. So yeah, I mean it's guys down south are in the heat of their season. Their season's probably starting to wind down, really. I think
Probably, yeah.
end of March, early April kind of really winds down for, guys down in Florida and whatnot. So before they start going into their cultural practices and all that fun stuff. But
Where all the good
Yep.
stuff happens.
Yep.
Like you said, all the fun stuff.
oh yeah. I was gonna say we're only probably 2 months away from the Masters, so the official kickoff of the golf season.
Yeah, we're not far. Not far. It's like a 6 weeks, I think, until Masters.
Yeah.
So we're always counting that one down because that's a big mark for us. You know, show is fun. There's a lot of buzz, but yeah, that is the kickoff to the golf season. And we heard the news yesterday about Tiger too. You know, saying it's not off the table.
I know. Well, I'm really hoping so the US Senior Open is here in town at Scioto this year.
Okay.
And he'll be eligible to play. And rumor has it he wants that trophy because he'd be the first player to win every single, boys, men's major through the USGA. So he's won the junior, the AM, the Open, and he'd be apparently the only player to win all four of them if he gets the Senior Open. So
doable for him, especially if he gets a golf cart. It sounds like
exactly.
a perfect situation.
Exactly. You can play the senior tour with a golf cart and less stress on his back and legs and all that stuff. He's in.
Yeah. Do they play different tees on the senior tour?
I would assume they move him up a little bit.
Because that would help
they
him too,
still
right?
play-
He wouldn't have to bomb everything. He's so good around the green, right? So he's still going to get there. But if he doesn't have to be bombing everything.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't play. I don't think they tip it out to like 7,400 yards, 75 like they do the big boys. But yeah, I think it's, somewhere probably still right around 7. I mean, those guys can still hit it. I mean,
He's right. Yeah. It's so natural to them.
Yeah, they can still get it around. We'll see.
Going through the editing of the last pod, and we were talking about curling. I was thinking you would love curling because it's a lot of strategy. It's like a scramble because it's 4-man, or you can play in 2-man. So there is kind of different games that you can do with it, and it's a huge drinking game. Like there's after the would it be a match or after a game, you go back into the bar and the winners buy losers beers, and then everybody stays for 3 or 4 hours. So it's a huge social sport. And here we have one in every town, and it seems like every few neighborhoods has a curling rink. It's hard too. It's not easy. Like the first few times I did it, I was just firing the rock right through the whole hack and everything. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, it looks tough. It does look like a lot of fun. The family was locked in to the match what was it, a couple of days, maybe over the weekend or something, like USA versus Sweden, I think it was. We were locked in, the boys are there. Oh, that guy's a dog, he's a beast. It's like, man, what a shot. Yeah. We were having fun with it. It looks like a freaking blast.
Yeah, once you get it down, it's kind of like golf. Like if you can kind of get it down and enjoy it, it's a ton of fun. We do it every year with our association. They get a bunch of guys to go out and just kind of have captains and pick teams, and everybody puts the sliders on their shoes and goes out and have a bunch of fun and a bunch of beers.
Yeah.
So it's a great social event or a great social sport for people.
I think our local chapter has a curling event tomorrow, actually.
Wow, there you go.
That would be fun. I think I just got an email about it.
There he is.
Hey, Mark.
Mark, how's it going?
Good.
Where are we finding you? Are you in an office somewhere, it looks like?
So I am at the Davy Tree Seeds campus. Then
All right.
the Seeds is the Science, Employee Education, and Development Center here in Kent, Ohio.
Wow, there you go. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today. We were just reminiscing about our golf round in Florida, our cold golf round in Florida.
Ice cold. Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally ice cold. There was ice on the golf course. Yeah. That's probably a first.
I remember heading out to, I can't recall specifically what hole we started out, but there was a sprinkler head that was stuck on, right? And it covered the cart path, and that cascaded down into the sand bunker. First time ever I played with that much ice on the course.
Yeah, that was a sight to see.
That's how they were driving me out to meet you guys, and I saw all that ice and saw people like slipping on the bridge and all that. Just like, was half tempted to tell them just to turn around and take me back, but didn't want to leave you guys high and dry.
I'm glad you came out, Brian, and made the round for us. It's great seeing you again and meeting Adam during that round too. So, and I found out very quickly that I was like, out of the three golfers, I was number 3 and number 1 being the best. So way in over my head.
I don't know. That first hole, you hit a bomb. I think it was the hardest hole in the course, right down the middle. We had a nice little chip to the green. So got us off on a good start.
Yeah, and that was it, wasn't
it?
Just showed off right away.
Awesome. Well, Mark, we appreciate you joining us. We usually like to kick the show off by just giving you the opportunity to introduce yourself and just kind of tell us a little bit about your journey.
Yeah, so thanks again. Appreciate the opportunity. So Mark Jordan recently retired about a year ago. Been in the industry for 45 years, all said and done, and just as I mentioned, just retired a year ago from Westfield Country Club, where I spent 36 years of my career. But I actually started off at a small mom and pop golf course out in the middle of north central Ohio, where we had cornfields and hay fields, and we had 2 things to do in the summertime. That was either bale hay or play golf, and so I chose to do both, actually. But anyway, so it was great experience growing up. And then I went to Ohio State HEI, and then went down to main campus, got my 4-year degree after that, and did an internship at Elyria Country Club for Frank Feck. Great experience, old William Flynn golf course on the west side of Cleveland. Just what an awesome layout. It's one of those things, guys, that you don't appreciate it at the time. It's like, here I am doing an internship, and getting exposed to the private club scene. But looking back now, every time I go back to play, it's like, what an awesome facility, what an awesome layout that was. So, I ended up in, after Ohio State, went down to Hyde Park Country Club in Cincinnati, where Pat O'Brien is now, doing an awesome renovation down there. Exciting things to come. And then I went to, was Winding Hollow Country Club in Columbus, now city-owned, Champions Golf Course, Robert Trent Jones Sr. Golf Course. Once again, another nice layout. And then, I ended up at Westfield for 36 years. So it's been quite a ride from a professional standpoint, and I've had a lot of good mentors along the way. And really a lot of good mentors that got me into the inner workings of the industry, right, through the associations and so forth. And Rick Kaharski at Winding Hollow, when I was there, he was president of the Ohio Turfgrass Foundation. And then I went up to work with John Spodnick, and John really set the standard when it comes to affiliate chapter organization. And John was the GCSA president in 1969. And so I was exposed to a lot of John's networks and just his methodology and being part of the community, right? Community before it was cool, I like to say. So it's been a great ride, family along the way. So all through that development, you have family. My wife and I, high school sweethearts. We started dating each other. Depends who you ask, but our first official date was she was a class ahead of me, so she was a sophomore. I was a freshman. And
Oh, boy.
went to the homecoming dance with her. So
Ooh,
yeah, that was big stuff. back
robbing
then.
the cradle.
Yeah, robbing the cradle. Each year. So funny story. My wife would be disappointed if I didn't share this with you guys. So my birthday is November 22nd. Her birthday is November 20th. So I was born in 63, actually the day President Kennedy was assassinated.
Oh, wow.
And she was born in 62. So for 2 days, I get to harass her about robbing the cradle because she's 2 years older than me. So a little inside joke with the family. So anyway.
Love it.
So, yeah, we've been married for 30, going on 39 years this November. Four grown adult children now. 7 grandchildren with the 8th on the way. All our grandchildren live close to us. So yeah, pretty good stuff with that. And yeah, we've been blessed actually to have the career that I really, really enjoyed and having a family that, we're just a tight-knit family, and kids spent a lot of time up at the golf course, as they were growing up. So a lot of good bonding with golf and nature. So to this day, they look back on that fondly.
Wonderful. Lots to get into there. And one of the things I like to ask people kind of when they're telling their story is to sort of start at the beginning and tell us sort of what inspired you to get into the industry, or sort of, your big motivation to really get in and, fall in love with it. And now here we are all this time later.
Yeah. Matter of fact, as fate would have it, I kind of fell into the industry. I used to, since I lived about a mile away from the Rolling Acres, the mom and pop golf course, I used to go down there and hawk balls and put them in egg cartons and then sell them to the golfers. Well, I was chased off the course numerous occasions, and so finally I was caught on the back nine, which was way back. I have no idea how the guy caught me, but anyway, he's like, you know what, you got a decision to make, and it was like stay out or stay out, and so I had a friend that worked there, and I asked Doug, I'm like, hey Doug, I said, I really like the game of golf. You're golfing or you're working here. What are the benefits of that? And he's like, oh, free golf. And at that time, I'd just gotten into golf. And I'm like, I'm there.
Perfect.
So that same guy that kicked me off hired me on the golf course. And, and he did a phenomenal job of, I don't know if it was intentional or not. I'll say it was intentional because he was Ben Staher was his name. But let me work in the grill room, small little grill room there, and in the cash register in the pro shop, and work on the carts, gassing the carts up and cleaning them up. And then, when somebody didn't show up for work on the green staff, hey Mark, why don't you hop on a mower? We need to mow greens this morning. So it was a kind of I guess, first year evolution to that. But I really, really fell in love with working on a golf course, being exposed to that as a high school kid. It's like somebody took a chance and put me in those positions, and just really fell in love with it across the board.
How did you find your way then to ATI? What was kind of at what point did you know you wanted to make a career out of this?
So interesting enough, I talked to the Ben at Stahura, and I said, hey, he was working on a sprinkler head one day. I'm like, hey, what's involved with this? And he's like, well, it's like plumbing, and showed me and I thought, well, that's interesting. And I was in college club in high school, and we were going to visit the College of Worcester. Well, along the way, it was just kind of a secondary, hey, well, we'll stop by Ohio State ATI. And while we were at Ohio State ATI, I saw a picture of the exact same, it was a Rainbird impact sprinkler, the one that he was working on, was in a brochure. And I'm like, I can see myself there, right? And so that big thing about seeing yourself in doing certain things. And so I inquired more about that. And so probably a couple months later, I worked at the golf course down the road. A couple months later, I told my dad, I'm like, hey, I'm really interested in getting into business. And my dad, whose exposure to golf was public golf, and that's what he knew. So his first question was, can you actually make a living at that? Right. And I'm like, I had no idea, Brian. I had no idea, but my response was, yes, you can, because I loved it so much. I had, even at that age, had a passion for it. And it's like, we'll figure it out along the way. So I did go to Ohio State ATI and had some good advice. So Mike Fulton, way back in the day from Ohio State ATI, he was my advisor. I said, hey, I'd like to expand my education. So he made a connection at main campus, and we connected. And at the end of that equation, Carl Danneberger ended up being my advisor. And I think that was Carl's first or second year at Ohio State. Yeah, so really young, and just remember those days very vividly and with fond memories.
Sorry, Mark, Canada just scored in overtime to beat Czech. That's crazy. They came back, scored in overtime. Wow, unbelievable.
I've been watching his eyes over there. He's like,
yeah, crazy timing to do a pod. So it's over now. I can turn it off. That's awesome. That is awesome. So Mark, you mentioned getting into the industry, and that was kind of a goal of yours. Was superintendent right there? Was that kind of like that's what I want to do? Or were you looking at other options? How'd that kind of go?
So primarily it was, I'm as a golf course superintendent, although my dad did say before he asked me if I could do this for a living, he goes, do you want to be a golf professional? And I said, I just want to be a good golfer. And he offered up lessons. Can we get you some lessons somewhere? Back then, we lived like 20, 25 miles from the closest person, George Valentine at Brookside, who's was actually just a phenom for a junior golf program, but just practically wouldn't work out. And so I developed my own bad habits and practiced them time and time again to get to what you guys saw in Orlando. But then, just the sun rises, the sun sets, and then, during that time frame, which would have been like early to mid 80s, golf was on TV, was just becoming this element of, wow, isn't this cool? The Augusta effect was just coming in. Everybody wanted to have their golf course perfect, and so in my mind, I had those images burnt into my mind that's what I wanted to do. And so, once again, blessed enough to have a career path that opened some doors and showed me the way. And so it was a superintendent's role from the get-go.
You found this industry. You mentioned a lot of the mentors that you had along the way. Talk about their influence on you and how that ultimately shaped the leader that you became.
So, actually, last week in Indianapolis, I gave a talk on leadership, communication, and managing personal stress during stressful times. And I look back and did a lot of reflection on what I learned from a leadership standpoint through the years. And you all know this, but the biggest difference between a leader and a manager is you lead people, you manage things, right? And that was you learned that along the way. But I look back to Ben at Rolling Acres, and he had a mindset of just get it done and get it done. Rush through it, get it done, be done with it. We got golfers on the tee sheet at 6:30 a.m., 6 o'clock, whatever those early times were. And he also had a perspective on, so back then, obviously 16, 17, 18, I was in high school, and we hear it even in this day and age, those high school kids or those younger kids, they do this or they do that. And so there's that kind of a negative connotation with that I learned that no, everybody, you don't know my heart, you don't know my passion for this work. And so what I did learn from him was his drive to get things done. And so Frank Feck at Elyria Country Club, Frank to this day, I'm not sure how old Frank is, but Pat Rogers, superintendent at Elyria, still good relationship with Pat. Frank has been there since 1969. I think Frank retired in early 2000s, somewhere thereabouts, and Pat took over for him. And Frank is still working the landscape around the clubhouse at Elyria Country Club. I think he's like 92, 93, somewhere in there. So he's still going at it. Just an amazing guy. And was an inspiration to me because of the way he was meticulous, about keeping notes and about what he did. And Frank was a man of few words. And so I learned to ask during my internship summer, I learned to ask a lot of questions. And so Frank was a one word response, like yes or no. And so it's like, how do you ask probing questions? But he had the vision for what Elyria Country Club should be, and he had a great team, great support team to make sure that worked. And so I learned about being detailed and having a good organization working with you. And then Rick Kaharski at Winding Hollow, great guy. X's and O's, agronomy. I learned a lot of agronomy from infield agronomy from Rick. And Rick was the first mentor that I had that we would, and once we're all done with work, hey, come in my office. We'll have a beverage or two and just, really talk about the industry and about his philosophies on things. And at that time, I think he was president of OTF, vice president of OTF. So he exposed me to what these organizations meant. And I also had some classmates at Ohio State that worked for Rick too. So Jeff Spangler, I don't know if you know Jeff or not. He was vice president of agronomy for Troon Golf, just a great guy. And a young man by the name of John Gasper, who John was at Riviera for a while out in Columbus. And then he went over to Asia and was doing some golf course work. And I kind of lost track with John, but John, we're all friends of the same tribe, and learned a lot from Rick in our discussions and in the after hours, and just a good group of people. And then coming up, well, at Hyde Park, great construction experience there. My first day there, we're installing a irrigation system. First day of pipe in the ground was my first day there. Nice. And Tano Irrigation was the contractor. So I didn't have, was I married? I wasn't married at the time. So, could spend countless hours at the golf course. So I spent a lot of time with Tanto learning irrigation. And my first job, my very first day, my first job at Hyde Park, Zoysia Fairways, right? So this was late March. It was late March. And so Jim Riesenberg was the superintendent there of the Cincinnati Riesenbergs. I think there's a whole brotherhood there of the Riesenbergs. But he's like, go spray Roundup on the fairways. And I'm like, what?
Wait a minute.
So it was baptism by fire, literally. It's like, okay, what are the rates? Well, go read the label. And it's like, okay, how do I do this? Because bluegrass, ryegrass, fescue, rough, Zoysia fairways. And so I quickly had to figure it out. And I look back on that as putting somebody in a position that really probably shouldn't have been put in that position. Because I obviously sprayed before, but something that big. And we're after the POA, right? The POA blossoms a little earlier than the Zoysia break storm and sea. And so like the whole philosophy there. But I was scared to death when he said that. And there was, I asked him a couple follow-up questions, like, just go do it. And it's like, okay, I'll do the best that I can with that. End of the equation, it worked out fine. A couple tracks into the rough, but it all worked out good. But I was definitely put on the spot with that one without much training and guidance. So, and Jim's a great guy. I still maintain a relationship with Jim to this day. But then, in my travels to Westfield, what I discovered immediately was, having come from, so it was Hyde Park back to Columbus and then Westfield. And Columbus, you guys know that it's a pretty competitive market there. So it was, it's like, you're being compared to the place down the street, right? And so you need to be at the top of your game every day. And so highly competitive. Get up to Westfield. Westfield's a whole different culture, right? And it was like guys started at 7, they left at 3, regardless of how much work was to be done. And John would he would come in at 8 and he would stay till 5 or 6, or if he had Northern Ohio GCSA stuff to do beyond that. And so once again, a lot of time with John, after everybody left, working with him, sending out mailings and and no beverages though with John. So, but it was just that interaction, that personal, touch and relationship that you do that a couple times a week, especially during your first 6 months there. You get to know somebody, get to know their expectations and understand the culture too. And it was just like stepping back, quite frankly, back then it was like stepping back into the late 40s, early 50s with that mindset. And some of the equipment that we had too was not what you would call state of the art back then. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. So good stuff.
Perfect. I'm glad you were kind of going down that road of different ways of being a leader. I would love to know sort of your evolution, being 36 years at the same property. How does that work? Like, how does your leadership sort of philosophy evolve over that time?
Definitely an evolution or development, right? Because I came in and I was brought in as assistant superintendent of the South Course at Westfield. So 36 holes, North Course, South Course. So I was over the South Course. In essence, it was a superintendent role, but with John still there. John was vice president of real estate operations. And so pretty much had autonomy with the group. And I learned real quick that my mindset was, let's do it. I'm a driver. I can go get it done. And if you want to do that, yeah, you wear yourself out real quick. So that leadership element of getting things done through people was very important for me. My first couple of years at Westfield, and quite frankly, we had a group of employees that had longstanding tenure, right? And so they had been there, 15, 20, 25 years. And so they'd seen quite an evolution of Westfield itself. So they started with a 9-hole golf course, 18 holes, 36 holes. So they'd been there through the whole evolution of Westfield. And so for me, it was about how do you handle guys a team that, has a lot of experience. And I got the knock when I came in of being that young college kid who's book smart, right? And that tag put to me real quick. And it's like, well, guys, I've got some experience as well. And so how do you massage that? So there were a couple of guys on the team that took me under their wing and, told me and showed me how to navigate through that culture. And some of the guys, I still really appreciate that because they stepped out. It could have been, harmful or impactful to them being on that crew, but they, they probably had children of my age back then, and so took a liking to me, and they actually taught me a lot about managing and also leading those what we used to call old timers through things. And so you develop that relationship and rapport and so on and so forth. And so that blossomed, and John retired. I started in '88 with Westfield. John retired in '93, so after 5 years there, and my next phase was the post Spotnik era, right? So now you're on your own, and we had a club manager. His name is Mike Whittick, great guy, but Westfield had a tendency to bring people from the insurance operations into the club operations. So our primary reason for being was to entertain agents at Westfield. And so we would bring them in. And so that connection was somebody from the insurance, the insurance side of the business out to the club. And we had a golf pro, a great guy, Chad Seymour, and myself. But that's trying to work with somebody who has no feel for the golf business, right? So here's a microcosm of that. Our first meeting with the club manager, Mike, Steve Numbers, who was we both got moved up to superintendent's role. So Steve was superintendent of the North Course, I was superintendent of the South. And the first meeting we had with the club manager, we explained our operation organization and identified that we needed second assistants or something to support us. And without even asking questions or listening, he goes, "You're not getting an assistant." Just like that. It's like, oh, okay. Well, so that's how we're playing golf these days. Okay, I get it. And so you learn to, that type of authoritarian leadership style. I'm not going to listen to you. You're going to do it my way, and this is what we're going to do. Learn to ask a lot of questions, right? And that's, and also present things in a different way, because Steve and I are both like, this is just natural progression, right? You get assistance, and no. Figure it out.
Shut it down.
Figure it out. So, yeah. And so what we did was we created strong internship positions, and you just leverage those interns as assistants. And so technically we got our assistants and worked through those elements. And Mike left in '97, and then we got a new leader. He was a general manager at Westfield, so we went from club manager to general manager in our delineation. Mark Farrell, and Mark was just a great guy. Mark taught me so much about leadership, and he's a subscriber to the Jack Welch philosophy, and he actually worked at GE for a long time, and so his leadership philosophies were just awesome. It's about even Stephen Covey. He was a big fan of Stephen Covey. Seek first to understand, then be understood, and understand perspective and paradigm and all that stuff. So really gave me a different lens from which to look through when you're working with, whether it was the executives at the insurance company or your team or the club members at Westfield. He taught me a great deal truly about leadership. He actually brought me in under his wing and brought me in as club manager when we hosted the Junior PGA Championship. Had some great learning opportunities, growth experiences as manager. But in the background, all the time was John Spodnick, right? And John would pop in. John lived in Westfield, and when I told John I was moving into the club manager and then general manager role, he goes, You're still going to run for the board, the national board of GCSA, which was John and I had talked about that a long time, and that was part of the goal. And I said, John, I just don't know how I'm going to do it. Being general manager and taking a lot of time. And at that time, when I was moved into the general manager's position, I was president of the Ohio Turfgrass Foundation, and I was struggling to manage that as well. And so I was like, I don't know, John. So John would increase his frequency of drop-bys just to make sure that, hey, don't want you to lose this. And so
eye on the prize, Mark. Eye on the prize.
Yeah. And so, and that's what I truly, looking back now, I truly appreciate about John, that wisdom and experience and knowledge, and truly knowing where my passion was. And it was in the superintendent's world. And so I spent 7 years as general manager of Westfield. And then we kind of changed organizational philosophies and org charts. And I had an opportunity to create a new position at Westfield, and that was natural resource leader. And everybody's like, what the heck does that mean? It's basically a director of agronomy position. But Westfield, we identified our titles just a little differently, and they were nuanced, but still overseeing total golf properties and operations. And it's like, you know what? I appreciate this time, but if I'm going to run for the board, the national board, I need to get out from underneath this general manager's position. And so we had the opportunity to move some furniture. Like I said, we reorganized a little bit. And so had the opportunity, came back on the golf course. And then was that 4 years later after that, started running for the board of directors. And Brian, I know, go back to those days and all the support that you provided me in making those videos and getting the word out and brochures and all that stuff. So I truly appreciate that. It was a lot of growing pains back then, but really appreciate it and appreciate the partnership that started back then, but continues to this day.
Yeah, no, of course. It was, like I said, it was a lot of fun, and we both learned a lot during that time. So it's very good. But I'm glad you brought up, a little bit of the background on Westfield, your position there, and essentially working for an insurance company. You and your team were probably under the microscope a lot more than just your average private club. What did you learn? How did that make you a better superintendent with some of the things that you were required to do working for an insurance company?
Yeah, so great question, Brian. It really involved honing leadership skills, understanding that you were going to be taken off the golf course, right, and be put into peer level leadership discussions and get to know colleagues outside of the club and inside the four walls at the home office, right? And so you understand and learn what really our purpose and mission was at Westfield Country Club, and that was to create a relaxed environment for Westfield to enhance business relationships. And ultimately, this wasn't in the mission statement, but it was about enhancing business relationships, but driving the bottom line, right, for Westfield Insurance. And so we had a mantra with the team that you don't mow grass, you sell insurance. And until people really thought about that, it's like, no, that's what we do. We bring agents in for for a round of golf, 4.5, 5 hours with our executive level leadership and others, CSRs and so forth. But that's an opportunity to sell Westfield Insurance. And so by the end of the 18th, when everybody's standing on the green, shaking hands, they got to think, man, what a great golf experience that was. I want to go back and sell Westfield Insurance. And so that was our reason for being. And that, that protection of the brand, that Westfield brand, was very important too, because, Brian, we hosted the Junior PGA Championship back in the day, and that was a great experience. We get to see Lexi Thompson and Tony Finau and Michelle Wee when they were, just hitting the stage, and it was just awesome to watch them. But that was the brand. Westfield brought the Junior PGA Championship to town because of the brand and the partnership with the PGA of America as well. And so great brand initiative. We were all disappointed when we didn't renew the contract, but it lived its life cycle for us. We hosted the Junior Ryder Cup as well. And that's when, I can't remember how old he was, 12 or 13. Rory McIlroy was on the European team, got to play at Westfield. So I got to see him and watch him play as well. So, but Brian, to answer your question, it was about leadership, and it was about brand recognition and protecting the company, right? And so I say protecting because if you had an adverse impact or adverse situation on the golf course, whether it was an employee getting hurt or sprays that didn't go right, you're front and center. And it wasn't just Westfield Country Club, it was Westfield Insurance. And so that was the biggest handoff between myself and Kyle, was about, my words were, protect the brand. You got to do that. So anyways, so that was probably my biggest element of learning and leadership through my later years at Westfield.
That's really cool. I didn't know that about your course, Mark. That's awesome to learn that kind of thing. And that's a great example too of what our industry is about, right? There's so much more that golf brings to the world, and there's so much more that happens on the golf course other than just hitting the ball. So that's a great example of what really happens when you go to a property like that. This is obviously a property that you spend a lot of time at and you're very proud of and have done a lot of work for. You've also headed out to do a little bit of volunteer work at the Travelers Tour, which was at TPC River Highlands. How was that?
Yeah, that was great. And through my travels of being on the board of GCSA, you go to special events, and I'd been down to Muirfield and talked to Chad and his list of volunteers down there, just kind of rah-rah speeches and so forth. But to actually be a volunteer, right? So when I would go down to Muirfield, it'd be like 2:00 in the afternoon, right between shifts, right? And so
you'd roll in right in time for lunch, Mark. Let's be real.
Yeah, he was there for the milkshake.
He knew what he was doing.
Strategic about your visits. But with the Travelers events, it was truly volunteer, and so you got up at 3 a.m. Mm-hmm. You were at the course at 4 a.m. You worked from out on the golf course. Once you got your assignments from 4:30 to 8:30, 9 o'clock, you busted butt, and then you got back in, and then you waited till the afternoon shift and finished up, 8:30, 9 o'clock, maybe even a little bit later. But it was really a great experience to have that behind the scenes, that sweat equity involved with that. So that was very enjoyable. And they had volunteers, just like Chad does down at Muirfield, from across the world. They had some interns and the equipment managers from the UK and so forth. So it was just great to expand your network a little bit and get to know them as well. So Jason Kanata, Director of Agronomy there at TPC River Highlands, great guy. They run a great ship there, and so that was really fun, Adam. I enjoyed it. Although at the end of the day, or at the end of the week, I should say, I was tired. Glad to head on the plane and head back home.
What did they have you doing, Mark?
So I actually did a variety of tasks. I don't think they trusted me enough with the really important tasks. So
where are my keys?
Yeah. So a friend of mine, Craig Kirby. I don't know if either of you know Craig, Brian.
Yeah, we're talking to him tomorrow.
Yeah. Craig's a great guy, and so he and I actually, along with Mark Weston, who's vice president of GCSA, we kind of pulled together there. We've got relationships that go back a long ways, and so Craig and I we're getting our first morning assignments, and so I'm a dew sweeper on the walking paths, right from tees to fairways. Like, all right, and we actually dew sweepers on the tees as the tees that they were playing as well. All right, that's cool. That's kind of a harmless job, and nobody can get hurt on that. And Craig, he had the job of fluffing the rough. And you'll have to ask Craig about this. So dew removal, bunker raking in the mornings and even in the evenings. And then one job that I had for a couple of evenings was when they mowed, they double cut in the evening. And so there was no dew evidence, right? And so they get the guys out with the syringes and hoses and try and get some water out there, but you couldn't see. So we're basically spotters, right?
Yeah.
And I'm glad I wasn't behind the steering wheel of the walk mowers, because these experienced guys had a hard enough time. I couldn't even imagine. Even as a spotter, I had a hard time, figuring out where the next pass was.
Yeah, that's when you find out that that dew is an operator's best friend. Being
Absolutely.
able to see those lines. So when I think of you, Mark, the first thing that comes to my mind is generosity and service. You have been so giving of your time in support of this industry. Would just love to hear from you what it is that really drives that passion for giving back and volunteering so much of your time and knowledge to pay it forward, I guess, for this industry.
Once again, I'll go back talk about mentors here in a little bit. But my parents, especially my mom, she was a stay-at-home mom. My dad was a construction worker, and we ran a small farm. So he was pounding it every day of the week. And so, but my mom gave a lot of her time to the local community, whether it's through church service or other means with the local sports boosters club. And she was out there volunteering. She wanted to help support and impact lives. My dad, even in spite of his work schedule, was able to coach virtually all my little league teams. And so after you appreciate it as a father after working construction all day and then coming home and spending time with a bunch of 10, 11, 12, 13, 14-year-old kids as you progress. Probably wasn't his first thing to do, but his love for sports and his love for his family really helped him volunteer. And then that element of paying it forward, Brian, it's the guys like Frank Feck, the guys like Rick Koharski, the guys like John Spodnick, who made an impact on my life and shared those stories with about who they knew and how they served and their mentors that exposed them to the industry. And so really that mentorship element, and it's about stewardship, but in a different light, right? So we think of stewardship as environmental stewardship. Let's take care of our courses and so forth. But there's stewardship of our organization and our industry. And so someday, Mark Jordan's not going to be around. So who's going to carry on those stories that John Spodnick told to him and Mal McLaren told to John and Colonel Morley shared with Mal McLaren, right? So it's that element of continuing and stewarding those stories, the industry. And so for me, that's where the deep passion really came from, Brian. When we look at that, and I also, and I know you know me well enough, Brian, to know that I've got a pretty devoted faith, right? And so
Yep.
being involved with church, is another motivator for me, and helping people out, right? Helping people realize there are alternative paths, whether it's in their faith journey or in their professional journey. It's about that next step, and it's about people seeing, knowing where they are and seeing where they can be down the road. And, if not for John Spodnik and Rick Koharski, I don't know if I'd ever had a drive or passion to become GCSA superintendent. Those guys helped mold, my professional mindset. And I'm so fortunate and blessed to have had those guys, amongst others, as mentors of mine. But that's really, Brian, where all that stems from.
I'm glad you mentioned, showing and exposing people to different paths, because I know, again, even recently, that's something you're very passionate about. And I know in the past you've done the program where you have folks come in and you kind of show them all the different avenues of the golf industry. And now you and your son are starting this collegiate tour to help introduce them to future employers. Talk about some of the things that you have been involved with and are involved with still on exposing people to the opportunities that are out there in golf and outside of golf.
Sure. So my last 2 years at Westfield, I'm an ideator by nature. I like to think about what could be. And so Westfield, has 1,700 employees, and we've got this talent acquisition department that I've known some people that were longstanding leaders in the talent acquisition area. And I'm like, hey, have we ever had a collegiate golf event at Westfield? And they're like, no, we used to have the junior PGA, blah, blah, blah. And which was important. So we needed to push that off. But I'm like, so we spend a lot of money going out to college campuses recruiting, right? And the club and golf is a very important part of Westfield culture. What do you think about hosting a collegiate event at Westfield, making it a 2-day, 36-hole round event? But in the morning of the first day, we could have basically what amounted to a job fair. At Westfield, we could have a breakfast for all participants, expose them to jobs and careers at Westfield, and go from there. They're like, sounds interesting. And I had a really good friend in talent acquisition who was a champion internally at Westfield on that. So he and I partnered with that and grew up. First year was just a great event. Second year was a good event as well, not as good as the first year. And those debriefs and how you can do things differently, and then players change. We had some turnover in talent acquisition that probably weren't as passionate about the championing of the event as my friend was. But anyways, it's still, first year resulted in, I think, 3 or 4. I think two interns and 2 at least prospects for full-time employees. And so, yeah, good mix. We had no idea what to expect. And I think the last year we may have gotten 1, but we had fewer teams participate the second year as well. So for me, it was about, okay, as I was deciding when to retire, it's like, okay, when do you know it's time to retire? I reached out to a couple of peers and mentors of mine, one of which was Frank Doby. I'm like, Frank, when do you know it's time to retire? He goes, you'll know when it's time. And so, this element of, we just completed a multiple phase renovation to both golf courses. We got that up and going. We were starting to work on a project that we're building a new golf course or a new clubhouse at Westfield. And so for me, it's like Kyle Smith, Brian, I think you know Kyle. He'd been on the team long enough, and he was in the succession plan. And it's like, I worked with a couple of other leaders in hospitality, and it's like, he's ready to move on. I'm ready to. I was really excited about this whole career path thing. And so once I retired, one of my endeavors was with my son-in-law, who was a collegiate women's coach at Ashland University, was assistant there. And he had done that for a couple of years. And he was like, Mark, he goes, I think, our number 1 and 2 golfers on our team can go out and play in high-level competitive events, but our 3 through 12 they haven't really found a niche as far as tournament schedules for their summer. And so I was like, oh, let's look at this a little bit. Let's reach out and ask others. And so we reached out to a couple other college coaches. They're like, hey, I think you're onto something. And so it's like, well, what about partnering with our corporate sponsors? What about partnering career opportunities for these collegiate golfers at their entity, basically? And so we churned on that a little bit, and we're still in the midst of developing that corporate sponsor element. We've got a lot of interest with that, but definitely this Ohio Collegiate Golf Tour is the name of the entity. Matter of fact, we're rolling out the website this afternoon.
Nice. There you go.
So so really excited. A lot of back of the house work, as both of you guys know, in developing these entities, but it's been a great learning experience for me from a back of the house standpoint, from trying to get the facilities dialed in, to the policies, procedures, and working with legal firms and all that good stuff. So it's been really good from my perspective in that. So we're probably 3/4 of the way done. We really got to focus on our corporate partner sponsors with how we're moving ahead to this year, but all good. So I really look forward to seeing that, and really look forward to helping collegiate golfers develop their competitive skill set, but then also helping them develop career opportunities too.
That's huge, Mark. I know we talked a little bit about that on the course, and it's really something that's going to help a lot of people. I just wanted to switch gears a little bit and talk about bringing your kids out and now your grandkids out on the golf course. How special is that? And any good memories from there? I would love for you to tell the story maybe of the first time you tied your son in golf.
My wife tied me in golf too, which I wasn't so excited about that. So we used to, so my wife worked as an underwriter for Westfield Insurance for many years. And so in the evening, I would go home and grab a bite to eat, and would ask the kids if they wanted to go up to the golf course. And so we have 4 children, and they're a variety of ages back then, but they're all excited to go up there. And so what we would do is at least initially, wouldn't necessarily focus on the golf part of it, but we focused on the nature part of it, right? So we would go out, we would check the bluebird boxes, checking for eggs and fledglings and all that stuff, and drive around the ponds, and we would actually stay there till after dark, and when the dew was setting on the fairways, because my kids got the biggest kick out of some of our ponds were adjacent to fairways, and so you get this migration of frogs from the ponds to the fairways, right? And so we drive these fairways, and we would have the headlights going, and you just see all these frogs. And so the kids would jump off the cart, and they would go, try and catch the frogs, to the point where, they're like running into the pond to catch the frog. It's like, no, let's not go that far, kids. We're not that serious about this. Okay? So those are some really, really good memories of growing up. And if you were to ask our 4 kids to this day what some of their fondest memories were, it was that. And of course, some of that parlayed then into golf and developing their golf game. We'd play, bring the putters out and putt on the greens and so forth. But the love of nature was really embedded in them from a young age. And so tying my son, the first 9 holes that I tied my son, this is going to be really interesting. So when I tied my son, he was probably, I think he was in 8th grade. And it was one of those rounds where, as we were approaching the 9th green, it's like I really wasn't keeping track. And it's like, oh, boy, if he pars and I bogey, we tie. And so as fate would have it, we get up on the green, he pars, I bogey 41, right? So 41-41. And I'm like, Nate, I said, I think you haven't beat me yet, but this is the first tie that we had. And he's like, if I remember it correctly, he's like, I know, Dad. That's why I wanted to par those. So he was, in his mind, he was keeping score, keeping track of mine.
He knew exactly what he needed.
He knew. Yeah, and he didn't say anything about it until we
Did you step on your ball in the fairway too?
You know what? I haven't
move
thought
it into
about
a
that,
divot?
Brian, but if I go back and replay that round hole by
That's right.
hole, shot by shot, I'm sure somewhere along the lines there's a cart track over my golf ball.
That's it. Yeah, when you're the first one to get to the ball, you never know what's going to happen. So
Yeah. No, so that was memorable, and it was a fairly cold day, but yeah, great memories with playing golf with him, and then my wife. This was last summer. We were playing on the North Course, and she's now that she's retired as well, she plays a couple times a week, and then we'll go out in the weekend evenings and play. Well, this is a Sunday evening, and she starts out par, bogey, par. And I start out like bogey, bogey, par, bogey, almost like the opposite of that. And so I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, well, she can't keep this up. There's going to be a triple bogey somewhere, and somewhere else.
Don't worry, I'll catch her.
And so, yeah, famous last words. Well, she continues to do the par bogey stuff, and she had a couple of shots at birdie, which I was very glad she didn't make any of those birdies. But I say that now. I was cheering her out, right? Because she was having that Caddyshack, round of your life, right? and so everything she hit was pure. Every putt I was happy for her. But we get to the ninth hole as well, and I'm thinking to myself, I got to add these scores up because I don't really want another Nate moment. And so we're tied going in. We are tied going in. And Melinda was kind of oblivious to it. She doesn't keep scores. She just plays it like we all should play, right? Yeah. And she was in the zone. And so I can't remember if I didn't say anything to her or I alluded to the fact that we were tied. I think I alluded to the fact that we were tied going into the last hole. And we actually, I think we both bogeyed the last hole. And so we ended up tying. And it's like, here you go, sweetheart. Here's a scorecard. Keep it. This is a memento for our marriage, our 30, soon to be 39 years of marriage. This is a certificate of achievement for our marriage.
More so that she can put up with you for 9 holes, right? That's the certificate of achievement.
Or 39 years. I don't know.
Yeah.
One or the other.
Can still put up with you for 9 holes after 39 years. Yeah. I love it.
You guys have gone out and played another round since, right?
Yeah,
okay,
we have.
Good.
And, I don't know. That was her career low and remains her career low to this day. So.
Oh, it's exciting. I almost lost to Camden, my oldest, last summer. He had me by like a shot or two going to the last, and he tripled. He felt the pressure. He was letting me know the whole time, Dad, I might beat you, Dad. I might beat you. I think I made birdie. He made triple or something. Keep trying, buddy. Keep trying.
There'll be that day, though, for sure.
I'm sure.
Adam, just real quick, grandkids, very similar, right? So take them out, although it's not as accessible as it was now that I'm retired, but we'll still take the time to go out and tour the course in the evening and look at the bluebird boxes and the frogs in the pond. And we got our putters with us now too, so it's all good.
That's awesome. I love.
Just need a bigger cart these days.
We do. We went from a 6-pack. We need an 8-pack for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. We'll have to see if Toro can get us get you one of those Vistas or something with
there you go.
three rows of seats.
Heck yeah. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, we're kind of running up against time here, Mark. We always like to wrap these up and just kind of give you the floor and let you talk about anything you want to bring up.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. I in my talk in Indiana last week about managing stress and how we do that was really brought on by some conversations I had with some vendors in Northern Ohio and some other superintendents in August of last year when it was really getting real for a lot of people and they're wearing. And we've got a great initiative in the industry about mindfulness and trying to incorporate the work-life balance, but sometimes that's not realistic, at your club. And so, how you respond to that is very important. And it's that element of prioritizing, right? What's most important to you. And I'll raise my hand first to this when you talk about, bringing your kids to the golf course. Reality, it's like those late afternoon, early evening drives with the kids around the golf course. You're checking things out too, right? And you're making sure that you've got, conditions under control. Walks with my wife, Melinda, will walk around the golf courses occasionally. And she goes, "Did you want to actually walk with me, or are you just scouting the course?"
You just got something to look at, don't you?
Yeah. And so for me, my answer to my wife is yes, right? Because I want to walk with her, I want to spend time with her, but it's about commingling those elements of your job and your family. And then once again, you throw in an element of faith in that. And last year, when I was talking to some superintendents, I think our perception is really, really skewed on how members and golfers view our golf courses. And there are some very vocal people that go through your facilities and say, "Oh, this should be better, that should be better." But in reality, I think we're our own worst critics, right? And so some of these, one superintendent in particular was really, really stressed out, probably a mid to high level club in the Cleveland area. He had a small spot at the beginning of one of his fairways in the rough, into the fairway rough area, probably like 10 by 10 area. And he was so focused on the rest of his golf course was immaculate, but he was focused on that blemish. And so we get so stressed out over those things, and so stressed out over the fact that, God gives us, each one of us, gifts to use. And so those gifts that we have, you have decisions to make with those gifts, and about leveraging your knowledge, your experience, your wisdom in the industry. And so for me, Brian, I think if I had advice for up and comers or those who are on that bubble of, I don't know if I can take another year of this, get your priorities straight, understand the resources that you have at your facility, realistic, unrealistic. If they don't match or don't align, and once again, it's easy to say this on a podcast in February. It might be time to consider changes to your life, because otherwise, you'll never get that time back. I'm so glad that I took the kids to the golf course, and I coached little league teams and so forth. That was a lot of fun, but it's that intentional time that you have and spending that one-on-one time or one-on-four times with your kids, and I think that's so important. But I've learned through the years that sometimes our priorities really get skewed, and you just need to ground yourself and understand what your mission is in life and what the priorities are. So like I say, I know it's easier said than done, but I think this industry has done a good job of bringing that to the forefront. I still think we've got a long way to go, especially as we I hear stories about those superintendents that are so concerned about a small area on their golf course, and they're laying awake at night worrying about that. It's like, man, life's too short to worry about that. So anyways, I appreciate the opportunity to voice that, because I just think that we are perfectionists by nature. We're driven by nature. We've got a lot of pride in our work, and we don't want anybody walking away from our golf course saying, "It was okay," right? We want to give them the greatest experience ever, and sometimes okay is okay.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things to do anytime I give a presentation. Is I always ask the superintendents, get your phone out.
Yep.
Let's scroll through your photo album. What percentage are bad pictures versus beauty shots of your golf course and the good? And it's like, oh, I've got 90% of issues on here. It's like, yes. Yep. Stop and embrace it. That's great advice. Great advice, Mark.
Sure.
Well, this has been fantastic. We really appreciate you coming on, spending some time with us, and putting up with us down in Orlando for that scramble, and watching our bad golf swings, and being a good sport about coming on the Instagram reel that Adam put together too. So that was fun.
Appreciate that, and Adam, I'm really grateful that one ball that I topped, I couldn't remember what hole it was. You got my swing, but you didn't follow the ball, because that would have been the easy one to follow.
Look, we didn't want to put shot tracer on any of the shots that we hit that day. That could have been bad.
Awesome.
All right,
thanks
guys.
a lot, Mark.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much for the time.
Yeah. Thanks, Mark.
Perfect. Thank God he did such a good job, because our end of things was a mess.
I saw you over there looking at watching the game, freaking dogs ripping it over here. Like, oh my gosh.
Man, it's just one of those days where I feel like I couldn't ask a question either. I
Yeah.
don't know why. Some days I'm so on, other days it's just like, can you speak English? Like
Yeah. No. No.
the
He's
power of editing. Thank goodness.
yep. Yep.
Yeah. Never
Yeah.
be able to do like a live radio hit, welcome back to the station. How's everybody doing today?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd struggle with that one, but
Yeah.
I thought he was great. Yeah, I thought he was
Yeah.
great. And there's so much more we could have gotten into with him because he
Oh,
had such a big career and has done so many things. So
oh, barely scratched the surface of what Mark's done. We didn't even really get into his board service with the GCSAA or, he's done so much. He has done so much in this industry. Um, it's incredible. I mean, service at the local chapter level, service with the Ohio, the state's turf foundation, obviously the national association president, served on so many committees, and now in retirement he's got his hands in about five different
still,
things I think that he's doing. I mean, he's so involved, cares so much about this industry, and ultimately he cares about the people of this industry. And I think during that little hour-long conversation, it became quite clear where his heart's at, and what his goal is, to help people.
yeah, no, he's such a genuine person and somebody that
Yeah.
it sounds like you could reach out and chat with him about just about anything, right? You could get
Yep.
into things you have personally, family things, stuff in your career, different advice. He's seen a lot of different things and would be happy to talk about that stuff. So it's great to meet people like that. And one of the things that you and I have talked about lately, or kind of behind the scenes, is that we're sort of connecting some people with other people to have as resources. There might be people that
Yep.
don't have a ton of people in their contact list or have a ton of people that they can lean on, but by listening to the show, here's a contact, somebody that you could easily find Mark's email online, send him an email, tell him you heard his story, and ask him a question. And I don't think he's going to have thousands of people reaching out, but if he hears from a few people or he's able to help a few people, that's somebody that you should reach out to.
He's an excellent mentor. He's done a great job of managing that team and building them up and preparing them for whatever's next. Kyle Smith, the new, like you mentioned, the titles down there are a little unique, so I'm not sure what Kyle's new title is, but basically took over Mark's role. He's been there for a long time. Has really been under Mark and John Spodnik, who he mentioned before too, and set him up for success. That's what it's all about. All right, I got to go let this dog out.
Open a fucking window or
Oh my God, it's brutal. You are killing me, dog. Is that what the little fruit snack did to you? Oh my
That's
God,
what they do
it's
to me.
awful.
So it's a good chance. Straight
dude.
sugar.
We're sitting here in mid conversation, and Percy just jumps up in the air and sits right next to me, and I'm like, oh no, what happened? And then I like get away. I'm like, oh my God, this is so bad.
So funny
So
how it
bad.
scares them. It like wakes them up.
I know. It's crazy. But
All right, buddy.
all right, man.
We'll chat tomorrow.
Sounds good. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, man. Take
All
care.
right. See ya.
We are back with another Ask the Agronomist segment featuring PhD agronomist Tony Goldsby from the Andersons. Our question today comes in from Adam Lois. Do you recommend applying a winter fertilizer?
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Adam, for having me on the show this week. And thanks to Adam for submitting the great question. And yeah, that's a topic that's obviously, really important. And I think for me, I really start to think about it kind of between cool season grasses and warm season grasses, just because obviously the physiology is very different. For me, I'm a pretty big proponent of cool season turf, whether you're talking, bluegrass, tall fescue, rye, really about those, call them winter fertilizers, but I think of it more as kind of carbohydrate reserves management, or, putting that money in the bank, right? Because, during that time of year, that soil temperature is right around 40 or 50 degrees. That plant's not actively photosynthesizing, so you're not getting that surge of top growth anymore. And a lot of that energy reserve that the plant's, able to make is going to go towards that carbohydrate storage. So that's then also going to strain, oftentimes translate into stronger spring green up, and then also, better root activity and overall density that following spring. So I'm a big proponent, like I said, but the key is to make sure you don't overdo it. And then obviously from a timing perspective, you don't want to get out too late, because if it's not actively being taken up, that's obviously a potential for some sort of environmental risk, or, leaching, or, obviously leaving in a way that you don't want it to. So I would say definitely around cool season, timing is important. And again, that rate kind of matters, but definitely something that you can use and see some benefit for sure. Warm season grasses, I would say, are definitely a little bit trickier. So, I actually did work in both graduate school and later on as an agronomist for the Andersons, and really kind of saw a mixed bag of results with, let's call, late season nitrogen on Bermuda grass applications. And for us, that's probably like late September, early October out here in the Midwest of the US. So, that's pretty late for when a lot of guys would do that. And interesting enough, some years, the application seemed to really improve winter survival and spring green up. And then some years you'd see that same, timing increase winter injuries. So obviously a lot going on with a plant that time of year. So I think, you got to be really careful not to delay dormancy anyway, or, push that tender growth. And I think, you're really risking being, either on the positive side of it or the negative side of it, depending on kind of how the climate ends up, shaking out for the fall. So I would say, I guess to summarize, yes, for cool season, but it's got to be strategic, be really cautious and nuanced with warm season. It can tend to kind of bite you if you get a little bit too aggressive with it, for sure.
Awesome. Great advice as always. Thank you, Tony. This wraps up another Ask the Agronomist segment featuring Dr. Tony Goldsby from the Andersons.